Welcome back to the Blues Society of Northwest Florida weekly podcast. I am your host, Paul Stadden. Thrilled this week to be joined by Jeff Jensen, who's going to be playing at the Blues Society's Blues Jams tonight. Lili Marlene's in Seville Quarter. Don't miss him, 8 o'clock. It's going to be a great show. Glad to have you here in Pensacola, Jeff.
Thanks, Paul. Glad to be here, man. It's beautiful.
And you got to get out to the beach at some point.
And we are going to be down in the area for another week or so. So I hope we get to go to the beach today before
Excellent.
Our show and hang out there. I'm excited about it.
Now, Jeff, let's go back to the beginning here. Let's start off with what got you into playing guitar. I mean, I've been listening to some of your stuff here. It's awesome. I love good blues chops. Who was it that made you want to pick up that instrument?
Man, that's a question I get asked a lot. I've had to contemplate that a lot. You know, I don't know directly. I can't put my finger on why I chose to play guitar specifically. It was just something that I wanted to do since I was about 8 years old.
Right.
And, my folks, they got me when I was 8. They rented me a big Dreadnought acoustic guitar and put me in some lessons, but I couldn't put my little 8-year-old arm around the guitar, so I ended up quitting. I just couldn't do it. And then when I was 10, I started listening to a lot of old rock and roll music, like Eric Clapton and the Rolling Stones and Led Zeppelin. And I started hearing that, and that fire just grew. I had to play guitar, so I actually saved up some money. My folks thought it'd be best if I bought my own guitar. So when I was 10, my mom helped me get a job cleaning out horse corrals and painting barns out in the country where I grew up. And I saved up some money, and I bought my first electric guitar. And then listening to Eric Clapton records, I found the blues, and so I kind of been, when I first started, I played an array of music, but it was always based on blues. It always came back to that. So.
Right. Well, then let me ask you how you started gigging then. What got you into wanting to play so bad that you said, I got to do this in front of other people?
That's funny, man. There's some people that are just kind of like the natural entertainer personality that just kind of wants to be in front of a crowd. And ever since I was young, I just kind of had that. And, I used to do little, like, almost performance plays for my elementary school class, just all kinds of stuff. So when I got proficient enough to play guitar and use that as like a way to make people happy and a way to make people smile, then it all kind of just made sense. All throughout when I was in high school, one of my favorite things, I don't know if I've ever told anybody this publicly, but one of my favorite things to do when I was in high school is I learned the hook line to every single popular song that was on the radio at the time I was in high school. And I would go around to people just to make them smile, and I'd be, I could play any song in the world. You name it. And I guessed that they would probably pick a song that was a really popular song to play, so then they'd name a song, and then I could play the opening line to it. See, I could play that one too.
Oh, that's awesome.
It just makes people happy, and that's what matters.
So your music is not just informed, by one genre, by the blues. You try to take in a lot of different influences into your music?
Yes, I do. I consider myself an absolute blues artist. I definitely consider myself a blues artist first. Everything I do has a foundational significance and a foundational core of blues music. When you take it a step further back, I really play American music. And that's another term that's slightly vague, but we play a little bit of soul music, we play a little bit of rock and roll, we play a whole lot of blues, we play a little bit of jazz, but basically you can pretty much track everything we're playing either has a strong everything we play has a strong foundation of blues.
Right.
And the stuff that kind of gets just slightly out of the box is still one of the very close cousins in the parallel genre of blues music that I feel like all ended up kind of stemming from the same place, really, when it all comes down to it.
Well, that brings me into my next question, man. You've got 3 albums out so far. Jeff Jensen Band, the self-titled. You've got I've Coming Home, and the latest, Road Worn and Ragged, which came out last year. Tell me what people would expect to pick up these CDs, and also you're planning on working on another one.
Man, yes, sir. You got all of those facts absolutely right. I'll just give you a brief history of what happened here. I started when I first started gigging, I was about maybe 19 years old, and
right.
I was playing in a very enthusiastic blues band. We really weren't very good, but we had a good time trying. And,
sure.
And after I was doing that for a couple of years, I finally decided to start my own band, and that was in 2004. It was about 10 years ago, and so in that time, it's amazing how quick time flies. But it's also amazing how much things have changed in that 10-year time period.
Right.
We're in such a different place, and the way the focus we have at shows and what basically our whole priorities have changed over time. You know, when I first started my band in 2004, our whole goals was to basically have a good time. We just wanted
right.
to have really good time and have fun. And it's amazing now because now it's way more significant than that. We actually, not only do we want to play really good music, but we really want to move people. Our goals at our shows is to literally make, I want people to have a significant experience. I want them to think, I want them to feel, and to do that is a lot more in-depth and a lot more complicated than simply just playing a good show.
Right, and right.
So we came out with our first album in 2007. We were real lucky with that one. It hit the national blues charts, the living blues charts, all that stuff.
Oh, cool.
And then 2009, we came out with I'm Coming Home, and that one did really well as well. Then after I'm Coming Home in 2009, I kind of took a break from full-time Jeff Jensen Band, and for about a year or so, and then I toured with Brandon Santini out of Memphis for 2 years. I produced his album that
The Time Another, or This Time Another?
Yeah, This Time Another Year. Yeah, I produced that. I played all the guitar on that, and we did great with that. I got 2 Blues Music Award nominations for that record. It's just super awesome. And so after touring with him for 2 years, which was amazing experience. We played some powerful shows and made some great music. It was time for me to cut another record.
Right.
And during all of that process, I had a lot of pretty powerful and significant life events happen in my life. I was living up in Portland, Oregon before moving to Memphis, and my entire life had fallen apart. I basically lost everything that I had completely. And so I got to Memphis, and I just decided to basically move to Memphis as a whim. And
right.
That's when I hooked up with Brandon Santini. So he kind of, he gave me a gig playing with him, and he didn't even know how significant that was. You know, he needed a guitar player, and I needed a gig. That's kind of the extent of what he knew. But the truth of the matter was, I really didn't have. When I got to Memphis, I didn't have anything. I didn't have any work. I didn't have any money. I didn't have anything. So he really helped me out way bigger than he knew. And so I after kind of processing everything, I recorded the album Road Worn and Ragged, and that was basically a chronological testimonial of a couple years of my life.
Right.
And so, so we came out with that, and man, we did really well with that record. It's definitely been, to date, my most successful record. We hit all the national blues charts with that as well.
Awesome.
I couldn't believe this, but we actually got a write-up in USA Today with that album.
Sweet. Congrats, man.
Thank you. I couldn't believe. My publicist called me and he said, he's like, we got a write-up in USA Today. I almost fell out of my chair. I couldn't believe it.
Oh, I'd be freaking out. Well, speaking of albums you've worked on, there's one album we haven't mentioned, and it seems kind of personal. The John Parker album that you worked on with him just before he passed.
Yeah, that's exactly right. John Parker is a really good close friend of mine back when I lived in Southern California, and he was a great blues artist. He wasn't really on the national scene.
Right.
He's originally from Atlanta, so he had a bunch of fans in Atlanta. And then just out on the West Coast, he actually worked a little bit in the movie industry. And anyway, I played with him. He helped me out a lot when I was coming up, and he taught me a lot. And we also started a band together for a short while, and he was battling liver cancer for about,
right.
I think maybe at the time, maybe about 4.5 years, or 4.5 years by the time we started a band together. He was just constantly going through a crazy battle of different experimental medication and different experimental procedures. And man, it was amazing. You know, he had a liver transplant.
Right.
And literally within 36 hours of that, he had a diaper taped to the incision wound, and he was on stage playing a show.
Wow. Wow.
That was the kind of person he was. I mean, that is a true story. He had, I can't believe that, man.
That's
anyway,
incredible.
It's powerful is what it is. Like people with that level of internal willpower, it's astonishing to me. And he was always so optimistic. Anyway, to the gloomy side of this, he had another record in him, and he had some great songs that hadn't been recorded. And so, you know, he sat down with me one day and he was like, "Look, I got to record another record, and I got to do it quick. I don't know how much time I have, but I really want to do this. Will you help me?" And so man, I'll produce the record. I'll help you arrange the songs. We'll get everything together, man. I'll do it. And it was really one of the honors of my life on a personal level, because, man, I really got to do everything I could to make that happen. And I tried really hard. We had a tour schedule at the time, but I actually calmed down booking gigs a little bit so I could spend more time with John. And I sat down and we arranged all of the songs. We went through them. We cleaned them up. We made them ready to record. I booked all the studio time. I took care of everything I could that he wasn't capable of. And we got in there and we recorded that album. And about maybe a week after he was done with all of his parts, he passed.
Oh, gosh.
It was so emotional because he got to hear pretty much how everything was going to sound, but he didn't really get to hear the completely finished record. We were so close. We were so close.
Right.
But either way, we got it. He got at least the last of that music out of him, and we got it on tape, and we got to put that record out. And his wife runs, that was back in 2008, so it's a little while ago now, but you can still buy that record, and I believe his wife is donating a lot or all the proceeds to the American Cancer Society.
Oh, that's awesome.
It's really cool.
That's amazing.
It's really cool.
Well, Jeff, thank you so much for spending this time with me today. I'm really hoping that everybody who listens to this podcast today is going to make sure to check out the Jeff Jensen Band tonight at the Blues Jams at Lili Marlene's in Seville Quarter starting at 8 o'clock. Jeff Jensen Band, I guarantee you're going to enjoy it. Jeff, have a great show tonight, okay?
Thank you, my friend. I appreciate you.